He was the actor that guided Doctor Who from its humble beginnings as a simple low-budget schedule filler to an unmissable Saturday night science fiction phenomenon, but with over 100 episodes spread over 3 and a bit series between 1963 and 1966. Where's the best place to start with the first Doctor, William Hartnell? Are you, a Doctor Who fan, curious about the classic series but don't know where to start or feel a tad overwhelmed by the whopping 695 episodes? Well, have no fear, as in this series I'll be taking you through a beginner's guide for all 8 classic Doctors, including 3 of my own personal story recommendations, which give, in my opinion, the best representation of each Doctor and their respective eras. I'm Ruby, aka Hooby Jones, this is Petrol the Dalek, and you are watching the First Doctor Explained, a William Hartnell era beginner's guide. Where to even begin with the first Doctor, William Hartnell? Whilst he helped establish the show and was the first to face many of Doctor Who's iconic monsters, the William Hartnell era of the show may almost be completely unrecognisable to a viewer of the show as it is today, as this era features more of an ensemble cast, being as much about the Doctor's many companions as it is about the Doctor Who himself, who is even almost the villain in many of his early stories. To kick things off with story recommendations for this series and this Doctor, we're going to start with part 1 of the show's first ever serial titled An Unearthly Child. This is the best place to start for anyone's introduction to the classic series of Doctor Who, as in just 25 minutes, part 1 of An Unearthly Child introduces us to the Doctor, the TARDIS, the Doctor's granddaughter Susan, and our 2 school teachers Ian and Barbara. Though it has now become somewhat of, in my opinion, a tired cliche of the companions' disbelief at the TARDIS being magically bigger on the inside, and them stepping inside and then stepping out and walking around the TARDIS again just to make sure what they're seeing is real, the reveal of the time machine's secret has never been bettered than in this first ever Doctor Who story. Whilst part 1 of An Unearthly Child is a timeless television masterpiece, the remaining 3 episodes leave much to be desired, and whilst I am the ultimate Doctor Who completionist, I am giving you my permission to just watch part 1 before moving on to my next pick. As this is a video series all about Doctor Who and Doctor Who's extensive lore, I'm going to be breaking the rules very early on by saying my next pick is sort of a 2-in-1, as I'm going to be gushing over the show's second ever serial, The Daleks, and its sequel story, Season 2's The Dalek Invasion of Earth. It's definitely no secret that the Daleks helped cement the success of Doctor Who, especially in the early and mid-1960s, and was William Hartnell's most iconic foe, as he faced off against them a whopping 4 times during his 3 and a bit season run, and for 1 scene in the Space Museum, if you count that. Now, the reason I've chosen to talk about these 2 serials rather than just one of them is that, frankly, I just cannot choose between them, so I'm leaving that choice up to you, the dear viewer. First off, let's talk about the introduction story of the Daleks, simply titled The Daleks. After the TARDIS lands on a mysterious and dead planet, the Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara stumble upon a futuristic city, and upon exploring are confronted by the Daleks. After the end of An Unearthly Child, Doctor Who's ratings, in the words of producer Verity Lambert, were not bad, but kind of average, and the penny-pinching BBC at the time were ever unsure about the show's future. That is, until Terry Nation's The Daleks entered production. This serial was everything that one of the show's creators, Sidney Newman, was dead against, as it featured so-called bug-eyed monsters, which he was absolutely determined to avoid. Similarly to An Unearthly Child, part 1 of this 7-part serial is just hypnotic and mesmerising, and was the episode that made me fall in love with this era in Doctor Who's history. You kind of have to pretend that we don't know what the Daleks are, and you just have to put yourself in that 60s mindset that you are seeing this for the first ever time on a tiny little black and white screen, and it is truly an unbelievably mesmerising experience. When you're watching it, several quirks of this era of Doctor Who quickly become apparent. We must address the big elephant in the room here, that classic Doctor Who is famous for having a ridiculously low budget when compared to other science fiction programmes, even those produced in the same era. For example, The budget for one episode of the William Hartnell era, according to Verity Lambert, was approximately £2,000, which is around £35,000 in today's money adjusted for inflation. For context, rival science fiction shows like Thunderbirds enjoyed a budget of £22,000 per episode, or a whopping £388,000 per episode in today's money. If you want an even more ridiculous comparison, whilst Doctor Who's budget sat so low, Star Trek in 1966 enjoyed a budget of a whopping $190,000 per episode, equivalent to $1.8 million in today's money adjusted for inflation. Particularly in the Hartnell era of the show, and in the Daleks especially, the low budget really does show. You might look at it and go, oh, that's the same corridor from that shot earlier on from a different angle, or those Daleks in the background are actually just life-size cardboard cutouts. Similarly, every scene was shot in just 1 or 2 takes, leading to all these weird little line flubs and missteps, or frankly awkward moments where the camera bumps into something and they weren't able to do a retake throughout this and subsequent serials. But, as Clever Dick Films greatly notes in his excellent retrospective series about Doctor Who, the classic series is more like a stage play in that you must suspend that disbelief in the same way you would if you were in the audience for a theatre show. Now, despite these budgetary restrictions, the story of the Daleks is so intriguing and solid that it is still a captivating watch 60 plus years later. The only downside of this story is that, well, frankly, it's 7 episodes long. 2 or 3 episodes too long, in my opinion. Whilst I'm not personally fussed about things being a little bit too long, I'd have a hard time wholeheartedly recommending it to someone because of how much this story sags in the middle, which really does suck. If it was just trimmed down by 1 episode, I'm sure it would be the greatest Doctor Who story of all time. The Dalek Invasion of Earth, on the other hand, is a much better paced outing, with a plot and setting very similar to the Doctor's new adventures from 2005 onwards. After the show's ratings and popularity soared during and following the original introduction of the Daleks, fans were keen to see the Salt and Pepper Pots in action again, with Terry Nation's follow-up script depicting an eerie dystopian London which has succumbed to the rule of the Daleks, leading the Doctor and company to step in and help save the day. The location filming within London is particularly eye-catching in this story, and it seems many of the issues facing the original Dalek serial, such as the pacing and the wonky sets, are resolved in this outing. The Daleks feels like a studio-bound, claustrophobic affair, whereas the Dalek Invasion of Earth has this huge sense of scale and is very action-heavy, which makes for a great watch. So if you're looking for a moody, atmospheric and claustrophobic classic horror story on a mysterious other world, I'd recommend the Daleks. But if you're after a slightly faster-paced adventure on our very own planet Earth with an excellent supporting cast of interesting characters, then have a look at the Dalek Invasion of Earth. Either way, I promise if you go in with an open mind and a bit of patience, you will not be disappointed. By the time of the Dalek Invasion of Earth, Doctor Who was a well-established staple of Saturday night television, and the show sailed on for 3 great and solid seasons of adventures. Sadly, due to health issues and clashes with new producers and members of staff, William Hartnell decided to leave the show in 1966, or he was fired, depending on who you ask, and had a fantastic send-off in my final recommendation for this video in Season 4's story, The 10th Planet. After arriving at a tracking station in the South Pole in 1986, the Doctor and companions Ben and Polly become mixed up in the discovery of Earth's twin planet Mondas and encounter its inhabitants, the Cybermen, for the very first time. Although today the Doctor regenerating has become an integral part of the show, the departure of William Hartnell proved to be a tough problem for the producers to overcome, until they came up with the excellent idea of the Doctor, being an alien, being able to change his face in order to become a different actor and a different person entirely. After a whole host of actors were considered for the role, including Brian Blessed, Patrick Troughton took on the role of the second Doctor Who, in a transition that was to be the make or break for the programme. But more on that in the next episode. The 10th Planet is a really well-paced and put-together classic Doctor Who story with some great questions in there about what it means to be human and what it means to be alive. The 10th Planet also acts as a great template for what the show was about to become under Patrick Troughton. For a good general overview of this era of Doctor Who to accompany these episodes, I definitely recommend the 2013 docudrama An Adventure in Space and Time, which is a compelling and well-made historical account of the show's early years, with some phenomenal acting from David Bradley as William Hartnell. Though it may seem slow, cheesy, and at times dull to our modern, overstimulated TikTok and social media brains, there's so much to love about the charmingly camp 60s quirky world of William Hartnell as the Doctor. In the next episode, we'll be covering the transition from the grumpy old man into the lovable cosmic hobo in part 2 of my beginner's guide to classic Doctor Who. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click below and subscribe to the official Whoby Jones YouTube channel.